Hello, I'm Margaret Gilbert from Corporate Contracts. I'm the Director of Corporate Contracts. I'm an international consultant and trainer in the area of procurement and contracts. I'm also asked to speak at international procurement conferences, and I'm also the author of the Contract Matters books, which there is a series which can be found on my website.
So, coming back to, say, the buyer's organisation or the supplier's organisation, they've both got procurement practitioners involved in these processes.
Yep.
So, what kind of value does having a procurement practitioners section actually add to the organisation?
Well, there will always be procurement people on the buyer organisation. It's useful from the supplier side to at least have people there who understand issues around procurement.
Right.
They might see it from their side only, but they don't necessarily understand from the buyer side.
Right.
But the value is of both sides understanding what procurement is all about. The value is there to make the wheels go better and the whole procurement process work more efficiently.
Yeah, because it's not just about not just about what's internal, it's also about the rules and regulations that govern that go on in the government or in the private sector around that whole business of buying.
Yeah, because there are statutory requirements as well, and which brings us back to the procurement principles, because that's usually part of law of the land.
Right.
Part of it anyway.
Yeah. So a good procurement practitioner will actually have a good handle on what the rules and regs are from a governmental perspective.
Even from the private industry side of things or local government side of things, is that usually they basically follow the law. Obviously, you have to follow the law of the land, but equally in terms of the principles as well. So even though they might conduct their procurement a little differently, in the private sector that happens more than in the public sector because they are accountable for public monies.
Yes.
So the private sector the procurement process take a shorter period of time than it does in the public sector.
Right.
Because the public sector is wanting to make sure that they are looking after the public monies, and so therefore the process might take a bit longer.
Yes. Just coming back to the buyer and their procurement plan for the year. How important is it for a buyer to have a procurement strategy?
Well, in the public sector, it's a requirement now, and it has been for some time, of having a procurement plan put up on their website so that suppliers can see that and they can be ready for whatever it is that they're interested in as it comes through that period of time.
So for a private company,
not so much.
So well, it's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement.
Isn't it a good idea to have
It's a good idea, and some
strategy?
do. It's not a requirement, specific requirement.
That's interesting.
And even in the local government, though, they equally have a procurement plan of the following 12 months, so that their contractors and things, people can be aware and can gear up for if there's something that they're interested in for later in the year.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Even in a private company, I would have thought that it would make some sense to have a procurement strategy simply in terms of managing the financial output of the company and what they're going to spend money on.
Yes.
So,
well, any strategy has to link into the organisational strategy as well, of course.
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't. But it should.
No. It's helpful for all these major documents to talk to one another.
Yes.
So what about technology? How does that impact procurement? I mean, apart from databases and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. In recent times, technology is making inroads more and more, and it's time for the procurement practitioner to be aware of the use of technology and how it can help in the day-to-day, and it can do the grunt work, so it allows you to focus on the procurement policy and the procurement strategy and the relationship. And you mentioned earlier about collaboration, that gives you time to look at the areas around collaboration, so that technology as technology sort of can assist. There is confusion around technology, as there's some sort of thinking that technology is the total answer to procurement, which it isn't, because it's always going to require people.
People are the ones who make the decisions.
Correct.
The technology and the information, the databases and all that kind of stuff thing might give the information,
Yes.
but at the end of the day, it's
Yes.
somebody who
Yes.
says yes,
Yeah.
no, or
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
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 So the technology, working out just what kind of technology is actually going to be useful.
Yeah.
And we're not so much talking about technology that is involved in manufacturing or even providing a service, but really the things that are related to the procurement process.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Indeed.
yeah.
And as technology changes, procurement has to change too, because it can't stand still. It can't be static. Over the years, as that procurement has moved, and procurement practitioners have to equally make a move. And in terms of technology, I think it's the battle, if that's the right word, is going to be moving the people along rather than moving the technology along. I think suppliers in this instance are far ahead of the procurement practitioner. And it's really going to be a case of looking at what your future needs are, what technology can do to assist. Now, it might be that you don't need to change at all, but it could likely be as technology changes, then you need to change too. Mm. And that's not an easy thing, because you need to be prepared for it, you need to be keeping an eye on what's happening, and of course you need to budget for it. You can't just magically come up with an amazing amount of money just like that.
No.
You actually have to budget for it and think about it.
Well, we've got various newspaper reports where technology has cost some government departments a huge amount of money, and they're not worked. Yes. So, I mean, that's kind of the major stuff. Well, yeah. But I was thinking too, in terms of technology, well, let's talk about email. We have the ability to send huge files through email now, and so I think that there are some areas where bringing in the tenders and receiving those by email is actually starting to happen now, and that is a significant change in terms of producing umpteen copies of the thing and then taking them through to the buyer within a certain time frame. So that's a major change just in that small part of the process. Yes,
it is a major change, and it also brings about what is considered to be legal and what not, and when is a signature applicable or not. Is it a email signature? Is that going to be okay, or does it physically need to be a proper signature? And that's being worked through now. So it's leading to some areas that's going to need some attention by higher grade than procurement people. Yeah. The legal people are going to come in on that one.
And rightly so, because you talk about that, as a supplier, I would be concerned about my commercial sensitivity. Yes. So I would be wanting to know that the security on the email system was not going to let me down.
That's right.
And my commercial information in the tender was not going to become open.
That's right.
I'd be really concerned about that.
Sure, it's important to keep all that information in-house within the evaluation team if we're talking about a tender process. But even when it comes to the contract side of things, the supplier will obviously want to know that, what the signature is going to be okay, so that therefore they'll get paid. I mean, that's their concern, obviously, providing the goods or services and then getting paid. And the buyer wants to see it from the point of view of needing to, especially in the government sector, that transparency issue again about making sure that it's all sort of legally worked through.
Yes. So transparency and openness do not give the buyer any rights over the information. They have to keep that stuff commercially sensitive, confidential. They've got to keep all that stuff. But it just means that if someone was going to follow through the process, they could find step by step that it was okay.
And to assist on that side is that suppliers would be wise to actually put on their documentation the words commercial in confidence, which basically is committing the buyer to keeping it pretty close to their chest, so to speak, and not just putting the information out there when it's
significant piece of information.
Yes,
that
indeed.
Is. Yeah. It is.
Because it's information that's applicable for them, and they don't necessarily want all their information out there for their competitors to be aware of.
Exactly. Now, you're the author of quite a number of contract matters books. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, there are a number of contract matters books, but primarily in respect to what we're talking about today, the most logical ones would be Contract Matters, A Practical Guide to the Contractual Process, Contract Matters Negotiation, and probably a third, and that would be changing the buyer-supplier conversation, a paradigm shift. Because I think that last one is so important now that there needs to be a different way of doing things, and that's why that book got written.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very informative.
Great, thank you.